Hey, it's Eric G. Around the House is sponsored by Baldwin Hardware. For 75 years, Baldwin Hardware has been known for its first-class quality and craftsmanship in door and cabinetry hardware. As an alumnus of the Baldwin Hardware Design Council, I can say I have seen the details and quality from design to the finished product. If you're looking for a new style and old-world craftsmanship, I can tell you there is only one Baldwin Hardware. Check out what would look great in your home at baldwinhardware.com.
It's Around the House.
We've been talking about the 10 things you can do to clean up the indoor air quality for a healthier home. And here's another one here that's super important. And I didn't even know this until I started working with my friend who was on last week's show, Caroline Blazowski, America's Healthy Home Expert. And she warned me of this in my garage and in my house. And she has done so many different air quality tests for people. That's her job. She's done thousands of them out there. And when you run an air quality test, it's amazing the stuff that you find. So the first thing I want you to do is not keep any of those chemicals, especially the stuff in your garage, your thinners.
When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is a lot to know, but we've got you covered. This is Around the House.
Around the House show is brought to you by Pyramid Heating and Cooling. Serving in Oregon, the Portland metro area, and Bend, Oregon, they are your one-stop shop for heating and cooling and indoor air quality. To find out more, head to pyramidheating.com, Oregon CCB 59382, and Baldwin Hardware. For over 75 years, Baldwin Hardware has been supplying luxury door and cabinetry hardware for that person that is looking for bold, handcrafted quality for their distinguished home. To find out more information, visit baldwinhardware.com. Welcome to the Around the House show, the next generation of home improvement. I'm Eric G. Thanks for joining me today. Happy July. We are in summer, and there are so many things going on around. I hope you guys had a great 4th of July week. This has been a great week. I took some time off last weekend to play a little catch up and give my knee a rest. I've been fighting that thing, and hopefully we'll be on the mend here. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about 10 things you can do to clean up your indoor air quality for a healthier home. But first, if you want to find out more about us, give us a call here at the studio at 833-239-4144. That number again, 833-239-4144. Or you can just head over to aroundthehouseonline.com for more information over there. That's got the radio show, the podcast, and of course the television show, which is Around the House Northwest. And we're creeping up on 500 videos over there as well. So there's a ton of content that you can catch for Around the House. Today, these top 10 things you can do. We talked last week in a best of show because I took some time off. It was just great to go back and revisit an old show that talked about healthier homes and healthier building materials for your homes. And I wanted to talk today about things you can do to just help that indoor air quality. And these are big ones that are really simple to manage. And so this is stuff that can really help. First on my list is to make sure that your bathroom vent fans are in good working order and they're going to get that nasty air in the bathroom outside. Now, this could be hair products. It could be cleaning products. It could be steam. It could be anything that's coming in to that bathroom in there. All those products have chemicals that we're using on our bodies, as well as mold, mildew, all that stuff that happens inside the bathroom. So having a great working fan that exits all the way outside is key. And so my rules for this is I really want to see something that is a higher end fan in there, not something that's the builder basic. I want to see something that moves at least 100 CFM if you've got a shower or a bathroom in there, and then get quickly to the outside. And that is not going up and fastening in next to a vent in the roof. This needs to go completely ducted all the way outside. Now, the problem that you have with bath fans out there, and this is where we get into issues sometimes, is the ratings on them. They rate that at the back of the fan. So if you turn that fan on and it's, let's say it's a 100 CFM fan, that's 100 cubic feet per minute. Problem is that could go 20 feet down. You have an elbow, which takes a lot of energy out of that air movement, and then goes out another 10 feet. And all of a sudden that could only be maybe 80 or 75. So you want to make sure and get the biggest fan you can and then run a bigger insulated duct out there. Now you need to follow building code with that. But in my area, they want to have a flex duct that is fully insulated so you don't get condensation on the inside that goes outside of the building. So you just get some flex duct, run it out, and then either run it out the roof or out a gable end. I'm not a fan of doing into soffits. I think there's a lot of problems that can happen there. Unless that's the only option you have and building code allows it, I would stay away from that. But this is how you can really keep that air quality up in that bathroom. And the other thing is you want to make sure that people use it when they take a shower or bath, and then they leave it on 20 minutes after they walk out of the room. So that way you can get that air movement and get all of those bad chemicals and moisture, because that is going to be a huge contribution to humidity inside your home if you don't. Now, building code used to allow in many areas if you had a window, but nobody would open the window up in the summer because it was too hot or it was too cold in the wintertime, depending on where you're located, and it could actually put in as much humidity. So you really want to have this bath fan working well. And my favorite brand is Panasonic out there. I think they make the best fans. I swapped out a Panasonic and put in a Bro Newton one, and the Panasonic did a better job and was quieter. So that's just my personal take. That is not any kind of advertisement, just my personal experience. I might actually, even though I still have that fan, I actually might put that fan back in because I wanted to test out the Bro Newton one, but it just was not as durable as the Panasonic. And so the Bro Newton one, in my experience, has gotten noisier and noisier as time goes on. And I've cleaned it, and it's just becoming a lot noisier. And the thing is, I've noticed too, as it runs, it gets a little bit noisier as well. So I'm going to probably put that Panasonic back in and swap that back out because I did my test. I think I know where it is, and I know it's how it's performing. So that's some of the things that happen at my house when I tested out new products. So just something to consider. Now, the same rules go for your range hood. That kitchen, when you're cooking, and it doesn't matter if you've got a gas cooktop, for instance, or if you have a electric top or induction, you still need to vent that outside. And depending on the hood, you need to get a much bigger hood probably than you actually realize to go outside with this. And here's one of the bigger issues with this. So if you've got a gas cooktop, for instance, and you fire that thing up, you should be turning that vent fan on every time you turn that on. And I'm guilty of this. I don't always do that because you're giving off a lot of chemicals in that combustion process. But then when you're searing, you're cooking, you're giving off all these oils and stuff that's getting air. It's basically putting a mist up into the air. And so that you want to get ducted and go outside. That's why it's always so greasy up inside of the hood, is that's one of those things you want to deal with to make sure you got it under control. So that is one of the biggest things as far as to contribute to bad air quality in your home is not using that vent fan. And if you've got a recycling one where you have that little charcoal filter that kicks it back into the room, this is a great DIY project for you to get that vented outside, hard duct it. I don't want to see flux duct in there. If you can get that hard ducted all the way outside with the proper diameter out there. Now, if you've got a big 48-inch range, for instance, with a griddle, you probably need maybe 1,000 CFM, and you need to do those calculations based on what you're cooking, because here's what happens. If you don't have a big enough fan and you're cooking something, maybe you're frying something on the stovetop there, whether it's induction or anything else, and if that smoke detector's going off, guess what? That means it's not grabbing enough of that and pulling it outside. The other issue that causes, though, is if you are taking 500, 600, 700 CFM, maybe 1,000 CFM and kicking that outside, and you've got a newer house, you need to do what they call makeup air. Now, that is replacing that 500 or 600 cubic feet per minute. And you think about that, 600 cubic feet per minute is like 600 basketballs of air blasting outside. So you need to make that up inside, because otherwise you're going to create a vacuum. And what can happen is if you've got that like anything, let's call it a gas water heater inside or a gas furnace, that can actually be pulling that bad air that's coming out of there that could have all the chemicals from that gas combustion, including carbon monoxide. You can actually vent that back into the space backwards, because that's the path of least resistance into the home. So you need to have a makeup air situation there. Now, if you've got an older house that is pretty passive as far as letting air in and out, that's not well insulated, that's a whole different story. It's going to pull it out of the crawl space. It's going to pull it out of wherever those leaks are in the home. But makeup air, as you get that house tightened up, is going to be very important, so you can put that new air back in. And then you're not grabbing dirty air. If you do this, it's going to get filtered. It's going to run through your system. So it's going to be clean air coming in versus dirty air that's coming out of who knows where, around the windows, cracks in the foundation, whatever you've got, out of a vent in the basement. You just want to make sure you get that dialed in, because that's going to be key right there. So making sure you're using that fan And second of all, making sure that's going outside all the way. And if you've got one of those micro hoods, maybe it's time when you do your next remodel to come up with a better plan. If you've got a little tiny condo, sometimes you're stuck with those. But micro hoods are some of the worst for trying to sit there and get clean air inside your home. All right, guys, we're gonna go out to break right now. When we come back, I'm gonna give you the rest of my top 10 things we can do to clean up your indoor air quality for a healthier home just as soon as Around the House returns. Do you want to be an Around the House insider? For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can get exclusive extended episodes, early access to the weekend show, and exclusive access to me, Eric G, for project questions and comments. Click on the link on your podcast player in the show notes or head to aroundthehouseonline.com and look for the Join Here button. Plus, the exclusive episodes are nearly commercial free. I don't want you to miss out on any of the giveaways or special offers. Thanks for tuning in to Around the House. Hey, it's Eric G from Around the House. Are you tired of low quality water in your home? Do you have bad tasting water? How about chemicals, minerals, and a hard water scale tearing up your bathrooms, appliances, and your water heater? I have a great solution for you. It's time you stop the damage and check out King Water Filtration. This water treatment system takes care of every drop of water that comes into your home. It uses no salt, no expense filters to change, and it's made right here in the USA. Plus, it prevents hard water scale. To find out more information, head to kingwaterfiltration.com, and if you use promo code ERIC-23, it will give you $1,000 off MSRP with a discount on a filter that will resolve those water quality issues. Don't miss out on this amazing sale on a product made right here in the USA at kingwaterfiltration.com. That's kingwaterfiltration.com. And don't forget promo code ERIC-23. Welcome back to the Around the House Show. I'm Eric G. Thanks for joining me today. We've been talking about the top 10 things you can do to clean up your indoor air quality for a healthier home. Now, if you're just joining us on the radio, last segment here, we were talking about having a great working vents in your bathroom. And of course, using the one in your kitchen and making sure that it's working properly and venting outside. Now, the next one here is really important because this can lead to very expensive repairs and abatement inside your home. And that is monitoring your humidity. Because here's what happens. If you have an area in your home, maybe it's a crawl space or a basement or a corner of a basement, or maybe it's just a bathroom out there. If it's getting above 60% relative humidity, that is the recipe for mold. That is where you will get that growing, and that is where you could have some serious issues. So I want to make sure you're monitoring in different spots of your house. Now, if you've got a smart thermostat, most of them, if not all of them now, have a humidity monitor, but that's at that location only. And so here's my trick for this. This is what works really well. Jump online and buy one of those cheap outdoor weather stations for checking your weather outside that does temperature, humidity, all that kind of stuff. And then you can take it around. Don't use it outside. Put that sensor in different places in your home. Throw it in your crawl space for a couple days. Throw it in the corner of the basement. Throw it in a bathroom. And start watching to see what you're doing there. Now, you can go more high tech if you want to spend more money. You can get air quality sensors that you could put in that'll test a lot more humidity and PM 2.5, which is that particulate matter, and hydrocarbon, all the different things you'll see, all the chemicals that are coming up. And so those are things that you can take a look at if you want to go a little bit deeper. But just for humidity, that's a cheap, easy way to measure that. And then you can go, wow, okay, basement's got a humidity problem. We're going to get mold down there. What are we doing? And that's how you can really track this down. Now, there's ways to control humidity inside the house, and it's depending on the situation you've got. And you think about it, back in the desert areas, if all you people out there that are listening that grew up in the desert, we used to have swamp coolers that would pump hot, moist air into your home. But that cooling effect of that moisture coming across you did help you cool. It made you feel cooler just because it was a cooling air that came across, that humidity helped. But the problem is that could lead to a moldy mess. And so that's where that issue is. And so a couple things that can happen to help reduce humidity is going to be airflow, getting the airflow balanced in the house. Maybe you've got a basement that doesn't have any vents and humidity is getting trapped down there, what you can do is consult your heating and cooling professional and make sure that there's air movement down there. So maybe putting in a couple ducts, maybe adding a little bit to that system, maybe putting a mini split in that area, whatever you need to do to condition that space, that can sure help. Second of all, if someone made a mistake in your AC unit when they installed this and messed up and put too big of a unit in, if that unit is short cycling, it is not doing its right job when it's in cooling mode to remove, or even if it's a high efficiency one with heating, to remove that humidity out of your home. It turns on for a minute, it turns off, turns on, turns off. It doesn't have enough time to move enough air to control that. And so what happens is that's not doing its job. So there's a couple different things you can do. If it's in a crawl space or basement, you can make sure you've got the right, in a crawl space, make sure you've got at least 6 mil plastic down on there. Make sure that's dialed in. If it's a basement, you can make sure that you don't have any water leaks down there or water coming in through that into a water intrusion type of situation. Or even more so, you can go down there and paint one of the different blocking primers and paints on the walls to slow that down, to see if you can keep some of that humidity from coming through, because that humidity will come through that concrete. That moisture travel will push through if you've got wet soil out there. And so that's something to consider there. Now, the other thing is too, when you're thinking about this, here's another one that can contribute if you've got a basement. If your gutter downspouts are draining within 10 feet of your home, and you're in an area that gets a significant amount of rain, we're not talking Death Valley here, we're not talking rainforest either on the other side of that coin, but if you get significant rainfall, that water that's coming down and dropping all of the square footage of the water that's hitting that roof, dropping it right next to the foundation, that will contribute to your indoor humidity if that water's getting down there, and it's going to push naturally into that basement area. So you want to make sure that you've got those gutter downspouts coming out of the gutters, going to the downspouts, and then going at least 10 feet downhill and away from the foundation of the home on all the corners out there. That will help reduce that humidity inside. And that's an easy DIY project. You can use ABS, you can use PVC, put it underground, put it into a dry well. You could put it where it pops up onto the surface of the ground later, depending on what you're doing, but you don't want to have any perforations in that pipe in the first 10 feet. So that way that can get away. It doesn't go back into that space. So that's a great one right there to do. So always monitor humidity and keep an eye on it. Worst case, you might have to put in a whole house dehumidifier. And that's something to consider. I'm not a fan of the little portables. One, they use a lot of energy. And two, these days, a lot of them are throwaway units. You get a couple years out, have to throw them away. And it's just a big waste. If you spend the money and get a good one that's sized for your location and for your square footage, that's going to work so much better. And that could be its own standalone unit down in a basement. It could be something that's down in the crawl space. And I've seen people as well go into crawl space encapsulation and go that route. It's just really depending on what you want to do and what you're trying to control. But the first thing you got to do is find out where that humidity is coming from. All right, here's the next one that's really good for keeping that indoor air quality clean. And that is having a good air filter and or air scrubber. Now you want to have something, and I'm not just talking that little 1-inch filter that is in your HVAC unit. Now, here's the thing. If you've got like a mini split heat pump, many times you're limited to whatever they put in there. And a lot of those units don't have the ability to add a better filter to that, which is unfortunate. But what you can do is you've got an HVAC system and you could have your heating and cooling professional come in and actually add a better inline filter into that. And so what that does is if you put in a big air scrubber air filter, now you're going to get a lot more of those particulate matters. You could put in some of the scrubbers that will actually go through and go a HEPA filter, heated HEPA filter. There's a lot of different ways to do it depending on what you're trying to do. In my house, I put in with the Carrier unit, which is their air filter. So it has a carbon strip on the filter. It gives it a charge, and so it attracts all of the dust and particles, and it kills and cleans all the stuff going through there. So it does a really good job of getting pet hair, all that dander, all that junk that's in my air and out of the house. Now, the thing is, too, is you got to consider where your intake is for your HVAC system. If you've got pets and it's coming through a floor register, where maybe it's grabbing all the stuff on the hardwood floor, sucking that in, that's one thing. If it's in the ceiling, sometimes you'll get less dirt, but you're not going to get that same airflow down below. And so that won't pick up that dirt. It does a little bit better job, but really this comes down to having a great air filter that someone designed for your system. And I don't recommend just going out and buying the best one you can get, because you can cause problems if you've got a higher MERV filter where you're looking at these filters, and that's the filter rating. If you put in too big of a filter, you can actually cut down the airflow. So you want to make sure that the filter has the right airflow for your system. So don't always get the best one. The best one could cause some problems with your system and cause it to work harder than it should. All right, Around the House, be right back after these important messages. Don't go anywhere. Show, the next generation of home improvement. Thanks for joining me today. If you're just visiting us for the first time on the radio, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate all of you radio listeners out there. And make sure that if you hear a commercial in our show, make sure that on the radio that you're touching base with those people. Say thanks for sponsoring Around the House in your area, because those are the guys that keep our show on the radio. This is not one of those pay for plays. We don't pay to be on a station, so those advertisers are what help us get our content out there. And so that's what's helping you get this on the radio right now. So a special thanks to all the radio stations, all those program directors, and of course, all the sponsors and advertisers that you hear in the show, because that's what keeps this machine running and us on the radio in your area. So thanks for joining me today. Here's the thing. If you want to find out more about me, head over to aroundthehouseonline.com. And of course, you can give us a call in the studio here. We've got a number that you can sit there and leave a message if we're not in the studio, and that is 833-239-4144. That number again, 833-239-4144. We've been talking about the 10 things you can do to clean up the indoor air quality for a healthier home. And here's another one here that's super important. And I didn't even know this until I started working with my friend who was on last week's show, Caroline Blazowski, America's Healthy Home Expert. And she warned me of this in my garage and in my house. And she has done so many different air quality tests for people. That's her job. She's done thousands of them out there. And when you run an air quality test, it's amazing the stuff that you find. So the first thing I want you to do is not keep any of those chemicals, especially the stuff in your garage, your thinners, your bug killers, the weed killers, all that stuff. Do not keep this in a building that is attached to your home. This should be outside in a carport, in a shed, something like that, because those things do off gas and it will work its way back into your home. And what's funny, and it's something that I've noticed with Caroline, and she told me this, and she's done it multiple times. She can go through an air quality test and see what chemicals are underneath your sink. She can go and go, hey, do you have 2 or 3 of those flip top canisters where they have the sanitizing wipes in them? How many do you have? Oh, 3. Yeah, it showed up on the air quality test. So all of these things are off-gassing chemicals. Any of these cleaners, chemicals, paint, especially the oil-based products, those are all showing up. So if you're storing any of those cleaning chemicals like that in your, especially the harsher ones as well, laundry detergents, that kind of stuff, it doesn't make sense. But if you have all these different specialty cleaners that are harsh ones, make sure that you're storing those in a building that's not attached to the house, because that will show up. Even your garage, even though it's sealed up, it's still going to end up in that airspace, because most of the time people put that air handler out in the garage and it is going to always be sucking just a little bit of air in. And when that does, it's grabbing that air and putting it back into the home. So the more you can do to keep that stuff out of your home, the better off you are. And it's really simple. You can just go take the time, move that out to the shed. Any of those things like that can really cause bad air quality inside. So that's one of those that take your time, get it moved out, but it's something you could do on a Saturday. It's really easy, and get those things moved out, and it will make a difference in your air quality. Anytime we can get rid of those chemicals, the better off you're going to be. So here's another one here that I'm sorry, guys, I got to call you out on this. And I've had one of these myself, and sometimes this is tough. Sometimes this is your only option, but there's some things you can do to make sure this doesn't happen. Guys, we're going to have to get rid of those basement workshops. If you've got that basement workshop downstairs where you're painting, you're staining, you're oiling things up, you're storing the lawnmowers and you're working on those things down there, whatever. Sorry, guys, unless you're going through and going to really seal that off and make sure it has its own heating and cooling system, that you've got an air barrier in between that's completely sealed off through that house, really, you're just putting those chemicals back up. The sawdust is ending up in the house. It's going to be hard on your air handler. It's going to be really tough. So getting rid of that basement workshop and maybe moving it out to a building in the backyard. All the guys out there that are still doing it because they're in a city situation, I get it. It's not optimal, but do what you can to make sure you seal off those areas because, again, it's just like what we were talking about before. That stuff really causes havoc on your HVAC system and, of course, that indoor air quality upstairs. So getting rid of that wood shop. Sometimes those chemicals that you're using on the wood stuff can be pretty tough. I mean, I even get with some woods, I will get allergic reactions because some of the woods are toxic. And if you're getting little bits of that's missing your air filter up into your house, now you're creating a toxic situation. I will break out from doing woodworking projects with certain woods. So what I've been doing is I'm doing putting much more effort into dust control method because I'm putting vacuums on my saws now. You'll see when I'm doing my TV show, I'm doing a lot more of that just because of the reactions I get to this. And you don't want that inside your house. So spend some time, see if you can move that to another location, get it outside the envelope of the building, and you'll be better off. So see what you can do with that. It's an important one. So sorry, guys, I had to call you out on that one and something to do. So here's the next one. We talked about a little bit last week in that segment in that hour, but if you're doing remodeling in your home, let's get to hard floor surfaces. Go to hardwood floors or hard surfaces over carpet. And we talked about it last week. If you missed it in that best of, don't worry about it. But carpet is one of the nastiest surfaces we can have in our home. One, it traps all the dirt, dander. If you have pets, it's just getting nasty. It is just a capture thing. And unless you've got just a ridiculously good vacuum system, it's going to be a mess, guys. So if you can get rid of those carpets, you're going to be better off because now there's nothing for that to collect in. And those hardwood floors and some of the click vinyls, those kind of things, those work. And the other part is that there's so much formaldehyde and so many chemicals in these carpets, especially on some of them where they were doing a treatment system on them. So they're putting stuff in to keep them so a guard on the top of it so they don't stain. My favorite, though, is if you're going to go carpets, and you have to go carpets, that to use one of the stain-proof ones. There's that, I think it's that DuPont Sorona Stain Master. There's a lot of different brands out there now that make it so the actual fibers have the color built into them and they don't stain. So it's made out of plastic, basically, like recycled pop bottles or corn husk. I've seen a bunch of different stuff out there, but long story short, with these will really do a better job of not staining, but you're still going to have those issues of whatever is showing up in that carpet is getting sucked down there. And I tell you what, if you've ever remodeled in a house that was well cared for and they had a great vacuum, a good HEPA vac, things were getting cleaned all the time, you still pull up that carpet and pad and man, you still see big dust, dirt, skin cells, everything from the pets. It's trapped in that. And so I'd much rather do that. And that's one of the things too, is using the right vacuum cleaner and the right cleaner. I have been absolutely amazed at how my indoor air quality has gotten better at my house. And this is not on the list, but it's a subcategory here since we're talking carpets. Cleaning machines that help clean the house. And so I installed here a few months ago, made by Roborock. It is one of the robot vacuum cleaners. Now, this is what's cool. This is the Roborock S8 Max V Ultra. So I've got hardwood floors on the entire first floor. Those hardwood floors sit there and get dirty from my dogs playing outside, for us walking around. We get dirt on the floor. We get pet hair. We get all that stuff. So here's what I do is that machine runs almost every day. And what I do is it goes through and it mops, vacuums, scrubs the floors every single day. and it dries them. It does a really good job. It works on my hardwood floors really well without damaging them. And I don't have to empty it because it empties itself into its own system. So once a week, I put in new water, drain out the bad, clean out the bag, goes into its own bag. That has changed the air quality in my home. It has made it so much easier to keep clean. And my filters last so much longer because I don't have all that dust and dirt floating around. And so if you get that every day, that's a key right there to making sure you've got that great indoor air quality. So I run that thing every day. It's a very thorough machine. You can set it up for different things. It will do that whole floor. And that's really our floor that gets the most dirt down there because, of course, it's the first floor. So the stuff that gets tracked in from the dogs, the pet hair, all that stuff, it takes care of it, and it's awesome. So having something in a system to keep things clean is also going to help you with that indoor air quality. That's a big one, just cleanliness. Around the House will be right back after these important messages. Don't go anywhere. We got one more important segment to go this hour. Welcome back to the Around the House Show, the next generation of home improvement. Thanks for joining me today. If you want to find out more about us, head over to aroundthehouseonline.com and make sure if you're a podcast listener out there, make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast player. No matter what you got, I think we're on just about everyone out there. If there's one that you don't see us on and you're like, hey, I can't find you, send me a message over to aroundthehouseonline.com and I will make sure that we can get on there if it's something open for us to do. Now, we've been talking about my top 10 things you can do to clean up your indoor air quality for a healthier home. Let's review this real quick of where we are so far. One, have great working vents in the bathroom, making sure those things vent all the way outside. Number two, a good range hood that vents outside, getting all that chemicals, all that carbon, everything that you're burning outside. Monitor humidity. Make sure that you've got that basement, crawl space, anywhere in your home. Make sure that you don't have any high humidity issues there. And a good air filter or air scrubber on your HVAC system. Now, here's one little trick, guys, and I've done this. This can be fun if you don't have a good HVAC system. Let's say you're a baseboard heat, or you've got maybe a little window air conditioner and you've got steam heat and you've got an old home. What I have done is I have gone down and got basically a box fan. So I'll get a box fan and I will build a box around the intake side of that and seal up and tape up and put air filters on that. And then I will run that in a room and let that filter the air. And if you put good air filters on there and seal it up really tight on the intake side, it will filter that air. So you can make your own air filter doing that. It works out really well. Just make sure you have a big enough filter so you don't burn up that fan. It needs to have enough air going through there. So you don't want to burn it up and cause fire. But if you build this out, maybe a 24 by 24 box of filters there, get some big filters, it'll work fine. And that'll really help you clean up indoor air. And if you're a renter, that's a good little tip right there for you. And it's something you can tackle yourself. Really easy to do. Get some duct tape, put it together that way, you'll be good to go. All right, so that's another one there. Watch what chemicals you keep in your home. Any of those cleaners, make sure you don't have those around. Keep them outside the shed, any of that heavy duty stuff, because it will show up in your air quality testing. And sorry, guys, no basement workshops. And ladies, all you people down there working in the basement, if you could take that outside to another building away from the home, you're going to have cleaner indoor air. And then go hardwood floors or hard surfaces over carpet, because carpet just traps and off gases and gives you tons of problems there. The next one here is what I wanted to talk about. And this is something that's really important that can be a big problem. Do not use air fresheners in your home. You know, those plug-in type ones, you put the oil in, really all that is like a vaping chemical. All you're doing is all that oil that comes out of that gunky, sticky stuff is now in your air. So I have absolutely stopped using those in my house. I threw them away years ago. Oh, I'd like to have it smelling fresh in here. No, clean your house, do other things to keep it go natural, but do not use any of those plug-in air fresheners. And I'm not a big fan of the spray ones either. Take a look, use something natural. Do not use some of those chemicals out there because it's really tough. Watch what you're using. Those things can be really bad for indoor air quality. And those chemicals now end up in your lungs, and you don't want to be vaping that stuff inside your house. That's really what you're doing. So get rid of those vape style plug-in air fresheners. Those are a key to having cleaner air inside your home. Now, the next one here I think is important. It's something you should be doing every year or two, and I think this is really important. Get an air test. Now, there's a couple ways to do it. One, you can buy your own indoor air quality tester. They make these things. You can get them online. There's good ones out there. You can move them around your house. It will tell you what the particulates are, what chemicals you've got for VOCs that are out there. It'll tell you if you've got too high a humidity. It'll give you some certain things. It'll give you a basic test. And that's not a bad way to go. But if you want to go the ultimate way, this is where you bring in the professional, somebody like Carolyn Blazowski, America's Healthy Home Expert. Talk to her, because what she can do now is she will send you one of her Examine Air kits. That'll go on in your house. She will walk you through how to test this, and then you know exactly what's in your air. Exactly. She can tell you exactly what goes through that because it's capturing it, and that lab test will tell you what's going on. And I think it's super important to do for a number of reasons. If you have a mold issue in your house, or let's say you're having some health issues, you're having respiratory issues, and you think it might be to some hidden mold in the house, or maybe you've got a sick house where you've got something going on there. The easiest way to do this is to call her, have her send out a kit, and then it's going to say what's going on. Now, that's super important. Then you can start troubleshooting it. And I think it's important. I think that every builder should do this for every house that they build. When that house is completely done, they should run an air test, because then you're going to see if there's mold in the air, if there's anything else, what's off-gassing. You'll have a good idea and you have a baseline. So that way down the road, if you've got any other issues that are within that warranty period, works pretty good, guys. Works pretty good. And it helps protect the builder and the homeowner as well, and tells a lot of what's going on. So I think every couple of years, if you have like leaky windows where you've got mold inside that air, that cavity around there where the insulation is and air is coming through that will show up on these tests. And so many times you can find problems before they raise their nasty, ugly head around your house. So that will really show up. So these are things you want to make sure to do. I think it's really important to every few years get that air test. It's really going to help you out and help just have a healthier home. Now, here's another one that's really hard, and it's a battle for many people. Clutter traps dirt. And if you have too many things in your home, and I'm not talking about the people with hoarding disorder, that clearly has its own health issues. That has health, safety, welfare, from fire to emergency. We all know that is not a healthy situation. But if you have probably 20 or 30% more stuff that you should have in your house, maybe it's piled up where you can't keep those surfaces clean, that could be an issue, because if all that dust is getting, stirred up every once in a while as you go clean it, because it's not getting taken care of, because it's collecting dirt, that can really be, nasty in there. So that is one of those that I would take the time, make sure you clean it up. Less clutter does keep your house cleaner, because it's just easier to keep clean that way. So something to think about. And within this, if you're doing cleaning and you've got hard surfaces, get that shop vac out, your garage vacuum. Get underneath those couches, the entertainment centers, all that stuff. You'd be surprised the dust bunnies that collect up down there. And if you can get down there and get that cleaned up, you're going to be better off. Now, one of my honorable mentions is getting the right, we talked about this a little earlier, but I think this is an honorable mention to bring back up, because I think it's really important. Making sure that you are going through and using a good quality vacuum when you clean the house. Now, I'm not talking about the $50 one, or even maybe not even really the Dysons. I'm talking about something that's got HEPA filtration that really gets that air clean. And anytime that you could put a HEPA filter in there, you're making sure that you're not kicking that dirt back up inside the house. So we're trying to really keep these hard surfaces, or even soft surfaces like carpet or any one of those other ones, really clean. If you can get that dirt, dander, skin cells, all that junk that's down there, if you can get that up and out, having a high quality vacuum is a good step for it, because you can get that out. Now, another tip here that's not on our top 10 list that's good, and it's something I'm horrible about, taking your shoes off when you come in the house. Because think about all the stuff you're walking through. If you're walking on public transit, that's how it's ending up on your floor. If you're out there walking and you step in some dog, that's gross and it's coming in the house. So the more you can do of kicking off those shoes by the door before you come in, the cleaner the house is going to be and the less you have to worry about it. And so there's a lot of stuff out there that really can be pretty nasty. So keeping those shoes from walking around the house could be a really great thing. Now, if you've got walking issues and you need to wear shoes, awesome. They also make some scrubbing things that you can do by the door to clean those shoes come in, booties, that kind of stuff. But I get it if for health reasons you need to have shoes on because socks or whatever are slippery, but maybe change off into some slippers or sandals as you go around the house and keep the outside shoes outside, in the inside shoes inside, and that can keep for a healthier home as well. And then the last one here is just use that common sense, guys. Use the common sense around your home. And making sure that you're washing your hands, making sure that you're cleaning things up, and of course, disinfecting when you can. If you've got mold, take care of it in the bathroom. If you've got things like that, really getting after stuff. And the last one here is not on the list, but I think it's really important. Make sure you get that radon test done so that way you know that you've got clean air that way. And that's part of that indoor air quality testing that I talked about, but I didn't mention it. I just want to make sure that you're doing radon testing so you make sure there is no healthy level of radon. So you just want to make sure that you've got that under control and completely out of the house. And that's going to make for a safer place for you as well. So something to consider. All right, guys, if you want to find out more about us, I've got a ton of videos and you can find those for any project you're going to tackle. That's over at aroundthehouseonline.com. Take a look down there and you'll see that. And if you want to hear some of our extended, we're starting to put out some extended podcasts here. So if you're not catching those, you can join our premium membership club. That's over at Around the House Online as well. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to Around the House Show. Hey, it's Eric G. with Around the House. Are you looking to grow your business? Need a spokesperson for your company? Maybe an MC for an upcoming trade show, or maybe you want to up your game and shoot some promotional videos. My team of experts would love to chat with you. Head to aroundthehouseonline.com and fill out the contact us form, and we'll set something up. Thanks for listening to Around the House.